So now let's talk about throwing an exception. So even if your code doesn't really have an exception to be like an expected exception or error, we can throw one if we actually need one. So what we do, we raise the statement, and this is done with the actual in the following way. Let's just say I'll just skip to the code itself. So let's say a equals 1. There's obviously no problem here. So we're going to say def, and then so we're going to define raise exception, and it's going to say a as the parameter. So in this exception, we're raising an exception. So we say if the type of a is not equal to the type of character a, then we're going to say raise, here's the raise word keyword, now value error. This is not a string. So what we're saying now is if a isn't a character or actually string type, then we're going to say, well, it's a value error that's wrong, raise the value error because we want a string. So alright, so let's actually, and then, okay, since we have this error, we're throwing this exception, we're also going to try, we got to try the code now. So we're going to try raising the exception, so try. So actually, we kind of made a function right here. It's actually a function if you're familiar with functions from last time, so we defined it. This is the name of the function. And then there's the raise keyword inside that function. So this function is going to check for this value error. So we're going to try doing the function raise exception, as you can see, and then with our variable a. And then after that we have except, and then we have value error. Whoops, I forgot the space. Value error. See, it autofills for me. Alright, so actually it's supposed to be except. My bad, not exception. So let's do this. So except value error as e colon, and then print e. So we're going to say, okay, so we're going to try running this function, and then we're going to print out what happened if there was an exception. So let's do this. As you can see, it says this is not a string because so this error actually worked. But let's say this is actually a string a. So let's do that. As you can see, everything checks out. So basically, our code works. So we're going to do that. This is not a string. So if we pass a string instead of integer, then we won't get an exception as I just showed you. But so another way to test a program instead of using raise, we have the assert statement. This statement, when encountered, causes the expression to be evaluated, where if the result is false, then basically an exception is raised. So let's write an example. Just erase all of this. So this time we're using, it looks like we're going to have, so it's called assert. So as you can see, it's highlighted, so it's a keyword. Alright, so we're going to define a new function called def. We're going to say test case. And then we're going to have two parameters, a and b. You can space them out, which to clean it up. So let's say assert a less than b. A is greater than b. So what we did, we basically, it's like we did everything in line, as you can see with this. So let's do this now. So we have try, and then we're going to run this function because it might be suspicious, as I said, so quote unquote suspicious code. So we're going to have test case with 2 and 1 as our parameters. So a equals 2 and b equals 1. And then we're going to say except, not exception, except, and then assertion error. So assertion we are using, that has its own type of error exception, so as e, and then print, whoops, I forgot the enter, as E, as print, and then, okay, so here we go. Let's build this. As you can see, there's a syntax error. Oh, forgot the colon. As E, forgot the colon there too. Alright, there you go. A is greater than B. So we asserted that if this doesn't occur, if this occurs actually, we're going to say A is greater than B. So that's basically it. So assert will assert a sort of exception what that happens. So if we reverse this around, whoops, this keyboard's kind of weird. As you can see, nothing happened because this checks out. But this, if this doesn't check out, we're going to say A is greater than B. And that pretty much concludes the section. We hope to see you in the next chapter.